Fogarty-SMTN.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network. Link 220. Yes, it's almost to 222. Not that that actually matters, but I just thought it was kind of interesting. I'm your host, who's already going on a record-breaking tangent, Spencer Presley. And joining me today is a very special guest. Why is it a special guest? Because we've almost had its own mini podcast just getting ready for this podcast to begin. That's how you know it's going to be a good one. I'm joined by special guest and person who is definitely never done anything bad on Portlandia, Connor Fogarty. Oh God, I already thought it. Did I do that already wrong?
No, it's okay.
Did I already blow the last name?
You said it the way you were afraid you were going to say it.
There you go. See, I got in my own head already. It's too much of a mind game. So I will let you say your own name and then say who you are.
Hi, my name is Connor Fogarty, and I'm the voice of Hikawa in Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remaster.
Don't you love saying that full title?
Yeah, oh yeah. It's like, I'm not done yet. We're gonna keep going here. Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remaster. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So, Connor, thank you so much for agreeing to come on here. You're obviously known for doing other roles as well from other films, shows, and video game stuff for it, but obviously the big one is being Hikawa in Nocturne. Big deal, especially because that was a game that never had any voice acting. Now, for most guests and everything like that, I always like to, if they have any history at all, before recording for Nocturne, did you have any sort of history or any kind of experience in the world of Megami Tensei or Persona and stuff like that?
I'll be totally honest with you. I was not aware of the Shin Megami Tensei franchise before the audition, actually. But I had some friends that were actually big fans, which I learned, when I could say that I was in it. They're like, "Oh, you're Hikawa?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." So a Persona, of course, and Atlas, like with, Fire Emblem and stuff like that. Of course, I was well aware of that. But Shin Megami Tensei, no. I was not aware until I got cast in it. But I kind of became immediately fascinated because it was so kind of darkly philosophical, and it kind of, the story sounded like one of my kind of like OCD epistemological wormholes I would go through like in college.
It's definitely like it's the equivalent of if you had like a sleep paralysis demon just take you on one of their dreams. Like that's kind of a good way to describe it, especially something
that's a fantastic way to describe it. Yeah.
Especially Nocturne, because like the best part about Nocturne was like this was the first real 3D entry for the series. So before it was like, okay, you get a bit of a better idea. It's all like kind of 2D pixel art stuff like this. Whereas like there's a difference between seeing like a 9-foot penis in pixel form as opposed to actual 3D model in your face form.
Yeah, sticking in your face. Yeah, no, of course. It's a great way to describe it. That was kind of like, was Final Fantasy VII the first one that was kind of like that too? Because that's obviously a very old franchise as well.
Oh yeah.
Because like the first few were 2D. Yeah. So it's like one of those things where it's like, talking to friends, they're like, "Oh yeah, that game's supposed to be really hard." And well, the interesting thing with that was because auditioning for that, I auditioned for like maybe 5 or 6 people in it. I was kind of going through, when you get auditions, from agents, usually you get it where it's like you get your specific, they're having you read for specific roles, but sometimes they've got like a little packet within an age range where it's like, maybe you could do these certain ones. It's kind of up to you which ones you feel right for. give whatever you want to try. So yeah, I read for Hikawa for sure. I read for Hijiri as well. I remember doing that. The cat. What's the cat? Is it
Goto.
Yeah, Goto. I remember reading for Goto, and maybe a couple others. I didn't read for Isamu, but I think because I was like, oh, it's the cool guy. I'm like, I think someone else. It's one of those where it's just like, I think someone else could probably nail that. So it's just like, I did all the ones I did. I think Hikawa is just kind of like, yes, you kind of looking into his eyes, kind of like, I think he sits about here. And then I was kind of like, yeah, that sounds about right. I did maybe a couple takes of the lines that it had, and like all editions, you have to send it in because you can't get too hung up when they come in and out all the time. And then when I got the call, it's like, okay, you booked Hikawa. I'm like, awesome. But then I was like, since I read for 5 or 6, like, you don't remember every name of every character because they just come through so much. It's like, Hikawa. I'm like, awesome. But I'm like, which one is that? And looking up, I'm like, oh, it's the kind of the pretentious guy with the kind of sinister glare. I'm like, yeah, that's, if I had to guess who it would have been him. So
do you remember when you would have auditioned for that? Because I know recording obviously happened last year, but when would you have put in audition?
I auditioned for that. The turnaround was pretty. Sometimes like you do auditions for like, it's you hear back, something about it months later. Sometimes it's like, oh, this is from like last year. That was all kind of done, at least what I did, was around like December 2019. So there was a gestation period for like, because I was like, all right, is that game coming out? I thought maybe it did, and I didn't realize it. It wasn't until like we were talking about this, my friend texted me when that Nintendo Direct thing came out.
I gotta say, by the way, whoever that friend is, you don't have to name drop them on here. They immediately get very cool nerd points. Like, for like someone to just like, I can't think of a single person in my life, obviously not connected to this like podcast, where I could just text them and be like, yo, dude, let me tell you about Shin Megami Tensei. Like, I don't have that person in my life, so I'm very envious of that.
Well, he's got a lot of great nerd points. You could check him out on he goes under the name Moonbike. He's on Spotify. He does covers of like kind of old school video games, like instrumental covers, and he collaborates. He plays guitar. He's a really great musician. So a little shout out to, I call him Henry because he's a childhood friend, but he's Moonbike musically. But yeah, he knows about all those old school games. Of course, you can't really talk about it till it comes out, but it's like...
Well, listen, there's a NDA, and then there's the Friendier. We all know the Friendier.
The Friendier. Oh, yeah, that's the little industry shorthand. Yeah.
It's like, I can't make you sign a contract for this, but I want you to know if you do spill the beans and it gets back to me, I can legally break your legs. That's what the Friendier means.
Yeah, I can kill you. Yeah.
So, I gotta say, I always find it so funny how a lot of those projects, especially a lot of the Atlas stuff, was kind of like almost like book done like back to back to back around end of 2019, early 2020, that then kind of made it more funny about how long it went hush hush. And we were kind of talking about this a little bit before, but like, is there ever a point where you like maybe want to check in with, maybe it would be like, I don't know, even like who you would kind of ask in terms of like, because we were talking about this before of like, okay, when's it okay to like say I'm in a project, but then it like gets to that point of like, do you ever get to a point where you need to like check into someone and be like, hey, should I be worried that I haven't been announced as this yet? Like, am I gonna find out I got recasted?
Oh, it's so funny you say that. The whole time, because it was it was such a long period I didn't hear about it. The biggest fear you have once you get something is just the fear of losing it. But for sure, there's that literally kind of like, so when they started announcing the cast, Atlas followed me on Twitter. I was like, it was like, oh, Atlas followed you back. I'm like, huh, well, okay. And I'd hear my voice in the trailers, and every time I'd be like, well, this is what I do with everything. It's like every time, like, oh, they could replace me. I mean, I understand. And then every time I'm like, no, that's still me. Okay. So it's like, it was close to release date. I'm like, okay, I think I'm in the game.
Like literally, as soon as you put the disc in to your own PS4, you're like, okay, I'm still in. They can't take me out at this point.
Yeah, and then suddenly they install a patch, and it's not me anymore.
There was that day one patch. You had those few couple of minutes of thinking, is this what it was for? Was it just the longest con possible?
Yeah, it's like Hikawa starts talking in mid-sentences. Who dares disrupt this stillness? And you're like, shit. They installed it mid-game.
Yeah, Connor, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, little Timmy in Ohio, he was doing a Make-A-Wish Foundation and had a very specific request. So, yeah, we had to give him
that
your
is
card.
That is very specific request.
Like, hey,
it's for a good cause.
I mean, hey, that'd be like probably the only time you could have that happen, because at that point, obviously, you got paid, or like it'd be like you can't be mad at it. It's like, you know what, little Timmy in Ohio with probably some mild form of cancer, you deserve it. Enjoy being Hikawa for the rest of all time.
Well, there's certain things. It's like I audition, and then I got you learn who does the part, and you're like, yeah, well I thought they were a better fit. And you hear it, you're like, yeah, that's what it should be. So that's how that goes sometimes. But in regards to your question, yeah, I started seeing, because Christian, who was my director, I didn't know that he was the Demi-Fiend himself.
I was going to ask you that next. Of like, is there ever a point? And I don't know how well you know Christian at all. Clearly, that has to be someone makes fun of him once for being the director and the lead in a project. Like, that's just you gotta make fun of them for being that.
It's that thing. I haven't seen him since he directed me, but maybe next time. No, that does happen a lot though in a lot of projects. It's like like either in Hollywood, it's kind of that passion project thing where I'm playing. I have the game. I've been playing it. I've heard the grunts. Have you played the whole thing?
I have. I literally finished it about 2 nights ago as of this recording, and I was up until like 3 a.m. yesterday finishing what was supposed to be a review, but kind of just turned into a critique. So was a very interesting kind of thing going through the whole thing with the voice acting, especially with all of it for it. But it is funny. The last thing I do want to say for the Christian thing is like he gave himself like the trifecta though. If he's the voice director, he is the lead, and he also has the least amount of lines. So he just had all of it. Is
that the third in the trifecta?
Well, I don't know. It's either like you get paid I don't know. You imagine like how much can I tack on, but also not really have to like do that many lines for it. Because there's no like diatribes. Sorry for Nocturne spoilers. He doesn't get to the final boss and then starts reading the Iliad.
Oh, that would be a fun twist though if he starts reading the Iliad out loud. Yeah, no, but like then I started seeing some other people announce, and I checked with my agent because I was just like, hey, so I've seen other people like announce. I just want to make sure that it's okay because I'm seeing it. I'm like, because a lot of the people that announced had been in a lot of Atlas games before, and I was like, oh, maybe they're just announcing, they're having them go ahead because Atlas fans know who they are, and it would make sense of like, hey, Robbie Damon's in this game, Ray Chase is in this game, Laura Post is in this game, like that gets people excited, and Connor Fogarty, who not quite as well known. So I thought if that was the case, that would make sense. But I just wanted to check because I'm like, I'd love to, announce and promote if I could. So my agent she's like, yeah, let me just go check with Atlas, and Atlas is like, yeah, go ahead. So that's how that went for me. I don't know how it went for everyone else, but I'm sure they got the go ahead as well.
That's really interesting for it. So you'd kind of mentioned how it was not like a super long project, and even while playing the game, like there are large swaths of it not voiced, so it's not like it was this like crazy long thing for it. For
yeah, there's a lot of exploring and fighting,
for you at least, what like if you could kind of like break it down, like how long do you think in terms of just like maybe like days or whatever is easier to kind of sum it up as in terms of how long the project took for you to record?
Oh, it was a day session.
Wow. Okay. I didn't want to assume, like, so that's why I left it up. So that's interesting. I had a feeling it might have been, but that's very interesting.
Well, it's like one of those things, especially with, it's like what Darth Vader in the first Star Wars movie. I think he's got like 9 or maybe 10 minutes screen time. It's kind of more about the effects the villain has and what they've kind of set in motion as opposed to how often they're there. I have no idea what like everyone else was, but it's like, and I just started the game myself, but it's like I ran into me, the first time. And then, I know when I come in and out, and then I send you on your way. Do you join me? Do you not join me? I'm guessing spoilers are
everybody, spoilers for the game from 2003/4. So prepare your ears, everyone. See, that's also the funny part is like this game is so, with all the different endings, it's like it's a spoiler to say that it's a possibility. It's like you took one of 6 endings. Like, do you team up with him? Do you not team up with him? Like the journey definitely. Like I've never really thought of that as a spoiler. Like pretty much any main character you meet in a SMT game, it's like, okay, you're either gonna be my homie or I'm gonna have to kill you at the end.
Kill you.
Yeah, like there's no in between. There's no like, and he was fine. He just lived. So no, that's pretty interesting. So going into the project, at least, I don't know how much kind of prep work they had kind of maybe given you info of like, okay, here's like, obviously the script was updated. It wasn't just the old PlayStation 2 game ripped, as a lot of people had kind of expected, but it was more updated and modernized. Had they given all of you kind of like, hey, here's maybe examples of here's what the Japanese version sounded like, or here's just because like there are so many little weird aspects of it. Of this is a game that's been out for over a decade, and it's just now getting voice acting, and that's kind of really its biggest claim to fame outside of being on more systems is this story is now brought to life by actors and stuff. So like for you at least, did you get any kind of like brief in terms of like, okay, here's what to know kind of going into expect, or was it pretty much here's your character, does this sound right, and then go from there?
I definitely was given, like, going into it, I was given a lowdown about what he's about sonically, what they're, they played my audition back from, because of course auditions, when you do them, it's an educated guess, it's your portrayal. And I guess what, they said what I did was like, yeah, that's what we were looking for. So they played that back, they kind of elaborated on that. They talked about, they gave the backstory of, who he was, what his objectives were, stuff like that. I did my own prior research too, because I wanted to research, because like I said, like when I got the gig, I'm like, cool, like this is the 3rd game, and then I go, oh, this game's been out already, and then I learned the whole thing. I'm like, oh, cool, Hikawa's got a lot of interesting, as all the other Reason creators do, but like, oh, he kind of sets the game in motion. He's kind of the bad guy initially. So I inundated myself a lot with that, and then they gave me a lowdown as well too. And then we kind of go with that, and of course, they're like, okay, it's like, so what we liked about the audition is this, and you kind of go with it, and then they steer you in the right direction if you're going too astray. They have a vision, and they, since it's a game that's been around for a long time, it's like, they know. God, what am I trying to say? I think I'm just rambling at this point.
No, it's just.
But they have a great affection for it.
It's just I hope the question kind of made sense, because it's such a weird thing to kind of request, because it's like you're not working with like unmolded clay. You're filling the shoes of a character that people have hypothetically given a voice to. For like so many years. So it's like it's got to be weird. That's kind of why I was like, so. I don't know if this would have even hindered or helped. Like, did they even or if you have like looked it up on your own time, like, have you compared yourself to the Japanese version?
I did listen to it, and which was kind of interesting. I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, it's different, but it's also, I didn't listen to it too much because I thought I would like. I think I maybe heard some. I honestly couldn't remember, like voicing Aramon. I remember getting some audio references because they're trying to get a sense of like his voice layered with kind of the effect when you're fighting me in the boss battle and stuff like that, and kind of how to navigate the nuances of that. I remember listening to that. I may have listened to a Japanese recording then. I honestly can't fully remember, but I remember looking it up on YouTube after the Japanese version was released, just to kind of see how it looked and was sounding, and just to hear what the original voice of Hikawa was doing, which was interesting because it's like it's that same kind of, because Hikawa is not obviously very outwardly emotional, besides maybe some annoyance and curiosity, and but yeah, it's just interesting to see like the subtleties, how it's slightly different, which is cool. It's just it's the actor's interpretation, but at some point, I just try not to fixate on, oh, am I too different or too similar, and just trust that, they put me in the role for a reason, and it's, still Atlas at the end of the day, and I'm just honored that they entrust me with it.
Okay. Hopefully last really kind of nerdy Nocturne voiceover question, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
So, and I don't know if you've kind of gotten to this or if this was even anything that came up before recording for you. Was there ever a moment where you were like, oh, this isn't actually that much like voice acting for like a game this long? I'm just like, because one of the interesting things of that I kind of had an idea about when I messed around with the Japanese release last year, but definitely sunk home a lot more during my first playthrough was like the best way to describe this kind of sounds like an insult, but I hope it makes sense. The voice acting like scope felt like a PlayStation 2 game. You know what I mean? Of like, we're not going for everything. We're just going for like the heavy hitter moments, and even like not every character is voiced and stuff like that. So like I kind of like wonder if like would it ever have come up of just being like, oh hey, should we voice everything? Would it be fun to voice everything? Of just kind of like, whereas like I feel like going into the project it'd be one of those weird things of just like, oh wow, like we're not like, because like there are moments like obviously not really with like your character, just because pretty much anytime your character's on screen it's always voiced for it, but that's kind of one of those funny things of, did you really get like that kind of like vibe about it at all? Because even like if you look at the credits, there's I think maybe like less than 20 or 30 people all involved with it for like voicing. So like it's a huge cast of characters, but in terms of ones that are actually brought to life by like different actors and stuff like yourself, it's kind of on the smaller side. Like, did that ever come through at all?
Oh, well, when I'm doing voiceover, almost always, especially with video games, I'm seeing basically my scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and everything that I need to voice personally. So that whole thing, I honestly can't speak to, because I just knew what I had to voice as Hikawa, and the rest, I didn't know who the voice cast was besides me at first. So that kind of not applicable, I suppose. Is
no,
my
yeah,
answer.
I get it. I guess in terms of, at least from now that you've been playing it for a little bit, as just like a general consumer, do you think it would have added anything to just kind of having cut out those text moments and make all of those kind of voiced for it? But that was like the one thing that always kind of stuck with me of like, I loved the voice cast for this so much, I just kind of couldn't get enough. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I've only played, I'm about 2 hours. I just got my copies. I'm only about 2 hours in. I know there's definitely there's some moments where it's text. Yeah, of course. I'd always be, as an actor, like for me, I'd always be happy to voice more, more of whatever, and it's always great to hear it. The logistical, reasons why that may be one way or another, of course, I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, as an actor, it's always fun to even do little side things like that. And yeah, I mean, sure, why not? I know, yeah, there's certain moments where it's voiced and it's not voiced. Yeah, I wasn't, that's something I was not at the table for, but as an actor, I'm always happy to pad out my session any way I can. I'll do all the lines over again if you want.
That's
It's
like
just fun.
That's like my dream scenario was like someone's about to rap for the day and they're like, "Do you just want to like keep going?" And like, "Hey man,
Yeah.
it's all time is money. Let's just keep it going. Why not? Let's keep it going until we can't do it anymore."
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've had things where it goes way faster than I thought, and it's like, well, do we want to just ad-lib, or like I did some commercial and they wanted me to I was like talking to a dog. I was like a dog owner, and there's like certain other lines, and it's like, oh, we have some more time, we could do some ad libs, and I was like, yeah, okay, great, because I was just having fun. And in commercials, they sync up your voice to the commercial, because the commercial's usually filmed, and there are certain things that are like, oh, we could have him say this. I'm like, yeah, I'll say that. And then I do it, and I'm like, yeah, that was more of my voice into it than was probably necessary. I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't really make sense anymore. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's just, it's fun. No one forced me to do this, hence why I've pursued the life, I suppose. But yeah.
That actually kind of segues into, I'm surprised I've been talking to you for almost half an hour and we haven't done the obligatory "how'd you get started" question.
Oh, well, of course.
I guess to kind of at least like put a bit of a spin on it, less like how did you get started, or like what was kind of an inspiration for you. You've not really been like super like long into the game for it in terms of like
I'm new in town.
yeah, so
LA,
like
yeah.
because like what like I guess what would you say, because at least according to like IMDb it's like your earliest credit is like 2015. Is there anything kind of more notable earlier than that, or was that pretty much how long you've been doing it?
Well, so 2015, I was still in college. I'm about to turn 27. So I guess, let me give you my life. No, I'm kidding. But I grew up in Portland, and I think the first kind of foreshadowing of my interest in I think I always kind of wanted to do it. I remember watching cartoons as a kid, especially I like fucking loved Transformers. That just kind of blew my mind. The robots in disguise.
Considering we're like about the same age, I'm a little bit older than you, I guess, for it. So I have to then ask, what Transformers show did you grow up with? Because I can't think of any Transformers that were like on at the time.
It was one of those. It was one of the anime ones. It was Transformers Armada, which was recorded in Vancouver. Yeah, but it had the Beast Wars, Optimus and Megatron. And one of the first things that kind of blew my mind about voice, I mean, just hearing this voice, you look at the credits, and there's other things I was looking at the credits for too, like Teen Titans or Ed, and Eddie, any of that stuff. And I'd see familiar names, and this is the thing, because we're around the same generation. Even as a kid, IMDb, which I have open right now, existed. So like I would go on it, and I remember getting like Ratchet and Clank was one of my favorite video games, and finding out that Megatron was the same voice, was the same voice as Clank. It blew my mind. I'm just like, that's the same with David Kaye. And that sort of thing blew, and I think I'd always try to imitate all those voices, and of course my voice was, an octave and a half higher then, so it wasn't that accurate. But it was a thrilling thing. I was always drawn to microphones. And then in middle school, my voice, when my voice changed and I was able to kind of imitate things I wanted to imitate, I was really into like soundboard prank calls, which is so stupid. I would watch YouTube videos of
that's you know what? Yeah, that's a very
That's
a very, very specific era of like, if you can watch like someone calling a GameStop for Battletoads or something and be like, yes, this was a serious thing I would watch.
It was Hank Hill. I'd spend hours. It was like Jack Nicholson. It was Hank Hill calling Home Depot going, I'm looking for a tap and die and some WD-40. And I just thought it was hilarious. Now I think it's kind of mean because like, we've all worked service jobs, and I'm like, oh, those poor people. But at the time, it was the funniest. But I was starting to imitate all the voices I was hearing there, and I started doing impressions, and people were like, oh, you should do voice acting. And I always kind of, because, we're of the age where that, even as a kid, you're aware. Because, you hear about, like, older generations of voice actors like, I didn't know that was a career. It's like, I always knew that was a career. But, I was like, I don't know if I can act. So I started doing like my senior year, I did some like middle school plays where I played kind of nice 10-year-old. Well, I was like a nice 12-year-old. But like I did plays senior year of high school, and I was like, oh, wow, I really like this performing thing. And then I did it in college. So I started doing indie films there. I did college radio. And my first kind of voiceover thing was I got some email to all the radio DJs going, oh, if you want to record, and sometimes on my radio DJ, I'd do these stupid characters. It was pretty cringeworthy in hindsight. But there was some email like, oh, we're doing some PSAs because I went to college in Seattle. I went to Seattle University up there. And there was some email like, because there'd be the basketball games would play on like the local Seattle radio on some station. I think it was maybe it's our college radio station. I can't remember, but they had us record some like bumpers for like the Theology School of Ministry, or I don't even remember what it was now. And now I'm in a game voicing characters that interact with demons, so you see how far I've fallen.
It's just the scope of the actor.
Yeah, I used to be an altar boy. Now I'm going to hell. But that's like, and then I got an agent because I was doing plays in college. I got an agent through a friend of mine who was doing stuff, and voiceover was part of it. So I got a demo for commercial, and started training for that. And then I moved back to Portland, was going back and forth between Portland and Seattle, doing more on-camera related stuff than not. I was doing a bit of everything.
Yeah.
I kind of stopped doing theater since college because like the agent didn't really agents don't tend to like theater agents aren't too much of a thing maybe in New York.
I was gonna say when you mentioned you got an agent from theater, I was like, I can't think of any time I've ever heard of that as a common thing.
No, that was for like film, television, commercial.
Okay.
So that's like how I did an episode of Portlandia, as I mentioned before, and then a lot of indie stuff. And then, I got Taft-Hartley and I became Union
Would you have become Union pre or post strike?
Post strike.
Okay. Boy, like I know when that like last like big like voice actor like union strike thing was. It literally in my brain feels like it was like 3 years long. It felt like the longest. It felt like it just all bled together in terms of time.
Oh yeah, that was a long time. Because I felt like there's almost kind of different tiers of it. I was kind of trying to keep, because I joined Union I think pretty shortly after that happened, or maybe it was. Yeah, no, it was pretty shortly. I think it's pretty shortly after. I think what I officially had to join the union, funny enough, was technically being in a commercial with Nolan North. It was an Amazon. It's one of those kind of Siri related commercials, but it was tied into Destiny.
I know which one you're talking about.
Or no, not Siri commercials. Sorry, Alexa. Sorry, Amazon.
Either way, whoever's listening to this on speaker near a smart device, I'm sure is very mad at us.
I'm sorry. Yeah, what should I tell the device? I won't. But it was this thing where it's like you could have Alexa while you're playing Destiny. You could have it like call friends for help. So I did a couple of those where someone was like, "Oh, the Red Legion are coming after us," and I was doing kind of like I thought it was kind of like a goofy gamer voice. Another one I did this almost kind of like 12-year-old where I'm like, "Oh, did your wife call us again?" And with like they had used like an Xbox kind of speaker filter on it. So when I heard it, I almost didn't think it was me until I remembered. You hear I'll hear a little cadences. I'm like, oh no, that's still me, because I don't remember like which take they use, because you record multiple takes and But yeah, so I did some of that, and then I moved down to LA in 2018, and I've been working on stuff. Obviously I can't talk about all of it, but here I am talking about some of it.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah,
today SMT3, tomorrow we'll talk about SMT4, 5, 6, and just keep breaking embargoes until all eternity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Look out for me in SMT8, which is coming out tomorrow.
Hey, don't joke. There is a actual released way back when a game out there called SMT9. Only came out in Japan and is an Xbox exclusive. It is I don't know why they wanted to name it that, but there is an SMT9 already out there before 5 isn't even done.
That's interesting, because you'd think you'd go like SMTX. It's like 10, and you're kind of like, was it like the iPhone X, right?
Like 9 is not a cool number. Like, this was not made by a bunch of German guys being very, like, avant-garde. No, this was made by a bunch of Japanese guys who were like, no. Spelled out 9, that'll sell on Xboxes. And it definitely did not.
It sold really well in Berlin, though. That was the funny part.
Big in the import market. SMT9, very, very big on the import market over there.
It's just flooded over there. Yeah, wow. Yeah. They love it over in.
That'll be an issue, I'm sure, in a decade. Someone over at Atlas will really start kicking themselves when they realize they released that game, because I'm very sure no one at the company even knows that thing even exists still.
Or if if there was an SMT8 and I was like future breaking an NDA, for the record, I know nothing of an SMT8, just so you know. But
that's what you'd want us to think, though. That's what we're getting at, though.
I know, I'm just playing mind games now at this point. I'm trying to create a new world in the conception, but mine is actually, it's not stillness, it's just a confusion.
So in Fallout 77, is your character still
76?
alive? No, because we're breaking future embargoes.
Oh,
Is your character
oh,
still alive
that's
in Fallout
me?
77?
I hope so. I hope that, because my whole quest in that is like you bring my guy, he's in the Brotherhood of Steel, you like bring him. It's a little fun little side. That was so fun to record. I mean, I love Bethesda and all their games, and um, so they brought. Yeah, so it's like my guy's like, hey, I need to impress my superiors, so it's like bringing different items. So it's like, yeah, hopefully they brought me some useful tools so I can like survive the like the moth creature in that game, and yeah, I hope so. I think it's one of those where it's like Mass Effect where you import your save, and depending on the items you bring me, that determines if I'm alive or not.
If
You heard it
if
here
you
first.
told me, because apparently 3 years ago we would have known each other. If you told me in 2018 that Fallout 76 would still be getting content updates, I would say you were high. So the fact that it is still getting updates and still has a bigger fan base now than the launch, it's like that like kind of like a weird thing of getting into maybe not like unpopular roles but unpopular projects of like, is there ever a moment of like, because like I'm assuming by the time you did the Steel Dawn DLC for 76 the game had already been out when you recorded, right?
Yeah,
Like, was there ever
yeah.
a moment of like, oh, dude, everyone kind of hates this game. Like, is it bad that I'm gonna like tie my name to this, or is it just kind of like, hey, a gig is a gig. I wanna have some
I'm
fun.
happy to. I've played. I play Skyrim and Oblivion and Fallout 3 all the time. I was just stoked. And it's one of those things like I play like Star Wars the dice. I played both Star Wars Battlefront 2s. But I play the dice one all the time, and I know a lot of those games. Sometimes there's controversy with, or like the launch, and usually, like, I got a PS4 a little bit behind a lot of people, so I wasn't there for a lot of launches. So by the times I play the game, like, I don't know, I'm having fun. So
You
I'm just
didn't have to
happy to be
sucker through
followed.
all the garbage at launch like Knack. You did the smart consumer idea though.
Oh, you're implying I uh I I'm so strategic. It's just like I love Star Wars. I want to play Star Wars. I'm a clone trooper.
I gotta say though, looking at like the games you've done, at least like the ones that like are kind of like online stuff for it, there is such a weird like kind of scattershot of like there's no like, oh, you do a lot of this role or you kind of get typecast as this, is like
Yeah,
there's no
I'm
real
still
tie
early in
between
my
any of
career.
them.
It's a little. Well, I think I could tell you at least, even doing plays or doing on camera in a weird way, because I mean, I'm 27, I've got kind of a baby face, but also I have a deep voice, so I sometimes voice like Hikawa, voice people that are maybe older than me. But there's still a through line often where it's more often than not higher or sometimes kind of characters where there's an elite. I've played a lot of. I've voiced a lot of characters with maybe an air of pretentiousness, um, which you could maybe argue Hikawa's got a little bit of. Um, or yeah, high status. I've played a lot of jerks. Um, but yeah, Hikawa is not the same as Gorgroth from World of Warcraft, if that's what you mean. No.
Yeah. Now this is a
Both
weird.
cult leaders, both cult people,
Oh, that's true.
but
So
otherwise, yeah.
so this is kind of a weird one. When would you have been involved with FF7? Because I don't know if you know, that game has the weirdest voiceover recording history.
What do you mean?
They recorded lines for that game as early back as
Oh,
2015, and it didn't.
oh, yeah.
And I don't think recording finished for it until 2019.
That would have been around the time I recorded it. Yeah, well, I know a lot of games, especially really big games like that, where I don't know what you've heard, but a lot of those games, I've heard of people like it being just sparsed out through years. I know there's that announcement trailer. When was that announcement trailer? When I had Cloud and
I think that was E3 like 26. Well, not E3. It was no, it was E3. Yeah, E3 2015 because that was the one when they also did like Shenmue and stuff at. But no, the funny
Sure.
history of that one is yeah, there are a lot of games that just like it's just kind of you're doing pickups for long times or like different aspects
Yeah.
of like what you want to do. But the funny thing with this one is with FF7 Remake, they just recasted the entire main cast, but they kept all the side characters still the same. So it was like the weirdest thing ever.
Oh, I was not aware.
Yeah, so like they had brought in like Craig Burton and a bunch of the other people who had done voices like Cloud, Tifa, and all of them from like the
Oh,
past
like
couple.
the original cast?
Yeah, so like they had brought them in and done a decent amount of work, and then basically Japan went, we don't want the old voices, we want the new ones for English. So there's a new like audience, which kind of makes sense for it. But then there was
Yeah,
that
that
disparity
happens.
because the Japanese voice cast is the same people who've been doing it for like 20 years. So it was kind of one of those things
Oh,
of
so
if you
they kept like Cloud
yeah,
as
so
being
so if
since
you were a
yeah.
fan of those characters, it just kind of felt like an FU for it. But I think like situations like that almost like never happen. It's just one of those funny things of it was in development for so long, people just had enough time to kind of make those decisions because like you don't throw away perfectly done and good used like recordings unless something truly bad goes wrong or someone higher up has a really big chip on their shoulder.
Oh, I mean, I've heard of that. Like the recast stuff. That is such a fixture. I mean, that's just with any industry. I that sounds like they made a specific business decision there, where it's like, okay, we want to refresh and kind of reboot. I mean, I was, because I was just in it as little side characters, which I think they usually just record that at the, very end. Like, I'm all over Wall Market, and all the NPCs. It's funny. Most of the NPCs I voice in the Wall Market scenes look eerily like me. It's
I was going to say
very
when I was looking up what the characters you'd voice and what they looked like, I was like, it's like they didn't typecast your voice because that just wouldn't have been feasibly possible, but they got eerily
yeah.
close.
Yeah, no, there's these NPCs. They've got blonde hair, and at a length, because since the pandemic, my hair's grown out quite a bit. But it's like at a length my hair normally is, and I was wearing. It's like the NPCs, because like NPCs, they use a lot of the same models, and yeah, it's a lot of the same guys where it's like a button down, kind of white button down shirt, like blonde hair. I have blonde hair. It's browning in my quarter life, but yeah, like blonde hair, and but then like with like these square glasses, that was like the divergence, and then it was my voice coming out of it. But sometimes I'm doing a slightly different voice, and then sometimes I'm voicing like there's a chocobo bean popcorn. Come get your That's me. If that's in Walmart, it's another. I was trying to like look at a map while trying to do a side quest when I was playing it. And I just keep hearing my own voice shouting to buy popcorn. I'm like, shut up, me. Because, you stand there for a while, you're listening to the barker repeat his chant, and if the barker is me, it's a little unnerving.
That's funny though, especially because when you're talking about like doing those like basically no named characters, like they're not really extras, but like in most cases, especially with a lot with video games,
Yeah, additional voices,
yeah,
yeah.
people don't often realize that that's just like a handful of people doing like anywhere from like 5 to 10 different character voices. So like for something
Exactly,
like
yeah.
that, is it fun? Do you like is there like kind of like a loose direction, or is it just like make them sound different enough but say these lines?
Yeah, no, I mean it's always fun. With that, because I think with localization, it depends if they want to do, um, if timing's important or stuff like that. So for that, I know for sure I was listening to like audio references, and they'd be like, okay, he's kind of a young guy, so like let's go for a young guy here, and then you see the script, and then sometimes with localization, because you're trying to generally get the same timing. So sometimes they have to listen back. You're like, okay, maybe you're like a half second too long. So sometimes if that keeps coming up, they're like, hold on, we can kind of like rephrase the sentence. So it's essentially saying the same thing, but instead it's kind of they tweak, like maybe they make it too like cannot to can't. That's a bad example. But like they might rephrase, maybe a word or two. Yeah, but you just kind of, you don't want to do any voice often with those. I think I snuck in one or two where I'm kind of talking like this, but most of the time you don't want to, especially when you're a little additional voice or it's atmospheric voices. You don't want to like draw the attention so the character's like, because it sounds like it's a character you're supposed to talk to. If there's some guy who's going like this the whole time, that would kind of stick out too much when it's supposed to kind of just, you're supposed to kind of fit in the crowd. There's certain scenes in that game, because I'd always try to, it's the sad thing, I'd always walk around the towns and go, is this guy me? Is this guy me? No. No. Is this guy? No. But like there's certain scenes where it's like a crowd. Did you play FF7 Remake?
Way more than I should admit.
Okay, well, fantastic. Yeah, it's like when you go to, I want to say, is it slums? I think it's where Aerith is. Is that 5?
Oh yeah, Sector 5.
Sector 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sector 5. And like you're walking up, and there's like a crowd, and they're watching the news, and you see just, because they have a little side text, and it all goes by so fast because everyone's talking. You're like, wait, am I in there? And then you try to like walk by every individual person, but they're all just like supposed to be crowd murmurs. And I can't, because I'm voiced like, a dozen, or I don't remember how many yet, a dozen to 20-ish voices in that. It's like I don't remember every single one I did or what I was talking about. So I'm like, oh, maybe I missed it, but like that's okay. You're not supposed to, you're there to make the world lived in, and that's kind of fun too, just to kind of step into that. So
I will say Final Fantasy VII Remake has one of the best in terms of balance of people talking where it's not overbearing and it just feels like, oh, this is just a normal amount of people talking, where it doesn't feel like yeah, I mean, obviously outside of the like, oh, I'm the selling you guys stuff, I'm gonna repeat the same line every now and then, it never really feels like that. It just felt like a real world, which is like so rare to see. And it's so funny because like you would think, well, just get enough people to do lines and enough takes, where like 9 out of 10 times that is not the case. Most people will just go, nope, throw 3 or 4 people on there, have them repeat lines for the rest of the game, and then we're good. Because it's like, for the most part, people aren't going to kind of pick up on stuff like that, but it adds to the like environment so much.
Oh yeah, no, I think it felt amazingly lived in that game, and it was just a great kind of atmosphere, and that's just a great kind of world building thing. But even, I will say, even like the Mass Effect trilogy, I'm a massive fan of, and even like the first game, there's that meme. Have you played the Mass Effect games?
That, what's the funny thing with the like trilogy that just came out? I am like, oh, I should finally get into it. I know I would love it. I've never touched them. I know nothing about the story, and I just cannot wait to just dive into it. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be so good. I mean, I'm sure so many people have hyped it up. You'll be like, yeah, it's fine.
No, but... I like set the bar pretty like fine for it, but it is one of those things of like, when I tell people that, this is how I know it is like a really, really good story and like everything for it. When I tell people I've not experienced it, I hear a lot, oh, I wish I could experience it for the first time. Because you only ever get that one first playthrough. I could experience it the first time again. Yeah. It with those RPGs we make choices, it's hard to play it again almost, because you feel like if you diverge from what you did. Sorry I interrupted you. No, you're good. Hey, there was very I'm gonna do it. Not Paragon. That was very blank.
Renegade?
That was very Renegade of you. See how much of a Mass Effect fan I am? That was my real test.
Wait, Renegade and that I interrupted you?
Yeah, that was a very Renegade option. I was trying to be very clever.
Shut up and listen to what I have to say.
But
that's my Renegade.
But yeah, like my only other little quick like FF7 question is, did you have to? Oh, not did you have to? Did you get to come in and do any other pickups for Integrate at all?
I
will let you know. You would be allowed to say the voice cast has been announced. I just know it'd be kind of one of those weird ones.
No, I'm not in Integrate. No.
Okay. Well, you are. You're just not in the new stuff in Integrate. You're there in now 3D audio with PlayStation 5. 3D audio Connor is in Integrate, just not new Connor.
That's right. You are correct.
Let me make it sound as confusing as humanly possible.
Yes. Yeah. My AI duplicate is in. Is that right? No?
Yeah,
Maybe not.
yeah, probably.
Okay. Great.
Do you have time for some questions still? I actually totally forgot to
Oh
ask
yeah.
how long you got in terms of time. I don't want to steal you too long.
Oh no. Fire away. I'm good for now. Yeah.
Okay,
Keep going.
so our first question. I laughed way too hard when I got this because the questions, like when I asked people for questions, just because I wasn't sure either how well people would either know you as an actor or Hikawa as a character. Like
Yeah.
I was like, what kind of like questions am I gonna get for you? And let
I
me
did
just
wonder
say,
that too.
everyone knocked it out of the park. We've got some 10 out of 10 just like questions I would 100% confirm never to ask. Like Infinity and Beyond on Discord says, "What is your opinion on Hikawa's hairline?" A very great question. Because that guy's got
Oh
maybe a six
dear.
head. Like that. Like when you get rid of those bangs, that's a hell of a hairline.
Yeah, I was kind of because it's the 3D model. I was actually kind of trying to look at that. I'm like, okay, so does he have a? So I'm like, okay, so he's got a receding hairline for sure of some kind. But is it like, is the front of it, is that bangs, or is that like his original? Because then his original hairline goes down pretty low, but it just really, really fucking receded. Or yeah, it's bangs to kind of compensate. Man, I don't know. See, here's the thing. Hair loss. What is it they say in those Keeps ads now? Did you know two out of three men experience some form of hair loss before the age of 35? It happens to a lot of us. Talk to me in 15 years, maybe I'll have Hikawa's hairline. Look, balding is a thing that can happen to anyone. I would maybe not style it like that if I were Hikawa personally. I'll just say that. You got kind of purplish hair and it's receding. There's things you can do with that. That's interesting. I don't think going with the like straight down like that. I don't know if I would personally do that.
I mean, he's got some great reasons for the stillness of the world, but that Widow's Peak, there's not enough reasons in the world to explain that bad boy.
No, no, yeah, and his jacket doesn't help either.
Next, very very important question. This
Uh-huh.
comes from Vincent Internal. How do you cook your eggs?
Oh, okay. Scrambled. That's about as fancy as I get. Okay, so it starts where you get the eggs out. You get a little bowl and you break. Okay, I don't need to do that. Yeah, I do that. I should probably use more of the non-sticky stuff because I always have to put the water in the pan and clean it up after. When I was in college, I'd make a really gross breakfast sandwich where I don't know if anyone cares
No,
about
we need to
this.
hear this. I'm a very big A breakfast and B egg fan. So I'm
I
because
love breakfast.
normally with breakfast the grosser the better. It's just gonna taste the better the worse it probably looks.
Yeah, it's like this is like I feel like somehow this like maybe Hikawa's style choices. This breakfast was just kind of so I was living in Seattle and I had a grocery outlet down the street. Like you can kind of stick my head out of like it was like a multiplex thing. I was kind of I could stick my head out, look down the street. There's a grocery outlet. I get basically whatever groceries I could get there because it's the bargain market. I don't. Whereabouts are you?
I am smack dab in the middle of the world. Well, in the world, in America, I'm in Kansas.
Oh wow. Okay, right on. Um, Overland Park, Wichita, Topeka.
Overland
I'm
Park.
just
Wow. How was that the first
okay.
guess? Most people see when people ask, "Oh, where in Kansas?" You just legally have to say Kansas City because no one knows any other city in Kansas.
No, it's Eastern Kansas, the Kansas City Metro. It's the second largest city in Kansas.
I think someone's got my IP address. Everybody.
I'm a nerd about states and municipal. It's
I
very weird.
appreciate that. That's a listen.
Yeah.
I've been doing this show for a while. I've never been called out as accurately as just now. I appreciate it.
Hey, I'm always glad to call you out accurately about your municipality. So happy to do it. Do you have like grocery outlets near you?
Oh yeah, so we got obviously like besides like a Target or a Walmart, there's like a Hy-Vee or like stuff like that.
Okay. Okay, yeah, but anyway, I'd basically get whatever like cheese and meat and eggs they had there because it was just like it's cheap and I was in college and um And like, so I would make this. I had this phase for a while. I was making this sandwich where it was like whatever bread I could find, usually a sourdough, because I was late to the whole wheat bread experience. I've since converted, but it was like some sourdough bread, some cold piece of cheese, some cold piece of like ham or turkey, whatever I had, and I kind of rotated based on what I could scavenge, and an egg that I didn't know how to scramble. So I guess it was kind of sort of fried, where it was just like the yellow sheet that filled up the pan, and I kind of just scrape it off and fold it into a sandwich, and then to top it off with that meat and cheese, that cold meat and cheese, I just do a nice little slobbing of ketchup.
Dang.
Ugh. Yeah.
I'm not
So
gonna
that's
lie.
how
I just ate dinner and that still sounds good. I'd eat that right now.
Okay. I'm glad I didn't repulse you.
No, no. So I'm the kind of guy who, like, when I saw Birds of Prey and there's that whole bit with the breakfast sandwich in that movie, when I saw that disgusting monstrosity, I turned to my wife and I went, I want that in my body right now.
No, that was good. You know, it's like those things where you go to those little hole in the wall places where it's those. It looks so messy, but you're like, it's gonna be so good. Like that was a food porn thing for sure. Just that whole sequence. I'm like, I don't know why they put this in this movie just to torture us.
I'm
That was
I'm
incredible.
90% sure that was actually all ad-libbed in by Margot Robbie. She just really wanted to like add character to a scene. Like, can we make like it's not even a
amazing.
side plot. It's like a D plot. It's a D plot of her sandwich breakfast redemption.
And then it's like, yeah, it's like they filmed the thing, and then she she spills her, like, yeah, that's brilliant. Um, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Also, Vincent asked, less important than the eggs, but he did ask,
Oh,
are there any other games or anime that you yourself would like to see yourself in?
Oh God.
Like, so if
I
you have your own Christian moment of, okay, I'm directing this puppy, I get to put it in, I can put myself in wherever. Where do you think you fit best?
Where do I fit best? Oh God. All right. Well, assuming casting directors just aren't listening, because that's that thing. It's like, oh, please put me in your game. I'd be happy to be in whatever. So what do you say? Video games or anime?
I mean, it can be whatever you want.
I mean, God. I mean, yeah. Like I love. Like I said, I love Mass Effect. I was about to say Okami. That's not. There's no voice acting in that.
I mean, you could make like the weird little noises.
I mean, yeah, I love that. God. It'd be so cool to be in something similar to like Death Note. I loved Death. That was kind of one of the first animes I saw. I know a lot of hardcore anime people are like, yeah, that's a good entry level anime. I'm like, I don't know, man, it's cool. Some kind of thriller thing like that I think would be awesome. I think my first thing was I'd say like, yeah, I'd love to be Mass Effect would be so cool. Or I mean, like, I love Star Wars. I'd love to do a Star Warsy thing. Do Kylo Ren or something like that. I'm
going to will this into existence just right now. I don't know what it'll be, but right now I'm going to just confirm for everybody something that's definitely not true, at least to my own brain. You will either be, in some way, shape, or form, in the next Mass Effect that is being worked on, or you will be in the Ubisoft Star Wars game that's being made by the Division people. I'm willing that into existence for you.
Manifest it, baby. Well, now, thank you for that into existence.
No, of course. Now, as a fellow, not only Kylo Ren fan, but as a big Adam Driver stan, because I have lungs and eyes. In your head, because you just did you already gave me a Kylo bit. If I just said, hey, give me your best Adam Driver impression, not Kylo Ren, give me an Adam Driver impression right now.
Yeah, Adam he's got that weird thing where, he over enunciates things a lot, and sometimes he gets kind of high, and then it sounds like there's an accent there that he's kind of hiding sometimes. He sounds a lot like a friend of mine who's from Germany, and I learned to do the impression by kind of just getting rid of the accent. So then I was like, oh, it's about here, because I feel like it's not even my best right now.
You know what's funny? It's like, it's morphed. Like, it's getting better as you keep doing it, weirdly.
Okay, perfectly. I think. Oh no, that was bad. See, now that I'm thinking about it too much, but it's that thing where he sounds like he was from Europe or something, and he learned how to speak English at a very young age, but he over enunciates as like compensation, even though he's from Indiana. It's kind of weird. I don't know.
I have this problem, and I've never said this to anyone or anyone else there, but I feel like this is a safe space, so everyone listening and you can either judge me or let me know what you think. I have this
Uh,
problem of I love Adam Driver as an actor.
uh,
Literally every time I see him in a movie trailer, or even just like a still from production or something, it looks like he's in a SNL fake parody trailer. And I know it's a real
Huh?
movie, but every time I see him in a trailer, I'm like, that's not a real movie. Like something seems off about it
Super
until it's really real for some reason.
I'm back.
Like
What is it? Just like that he looks out of place or
I
something?
don't know. It's like I saw a movie and I swore to God this was like a fake thing of like he's a bus driver in some small
Oh,
town.
Patterson.
Yeah, I saw a trailer
Yeah.
for Patterson randomly. YouTube suggested it to me, and I went and I was like, you could tell me this was a fake movie, and I would
Adam
believe you
Driver
100%.
is a bus driver. Yeah, it just sounds like.
It's like
Wait, Adam Driver's a bus driver. Love it.
it's just
Yeah,
like,
that's why
and
I
it's
love
nothing against him or the roles he picks. I love everything he's in. It's just, for whatever
no,
reason, if it's not Star Wars, I look at Adam Driver in this and I'm like, what's the catch? What's the weird thing about this movie?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's weird because, and especially after, sorry, I'll stop doing it. Like when he's in Logan Lucky, did you see that?
I did, yeah. That was another one of like,
He's got the southern accent. I think he's got like great. It's that thing he's got because he was on SNL. He's got great comedy chops, but he's just he's such an intense guy in so many of his roles. It's like I love when he gets to kind of flex that. Or have you seen Inside Llewyn? No, wait, yeah, is it Inside Llewyn Davis?
I
Is that
think
what it's
so,
called?
yeah. Uh-huh.
I was about to say What's Eating Llewyn Davis, but now I'm combining movies.
It's the sequel prequel to What's Eating Gilbert
Yeah.
Grape.
Who knew that was the same cinematic universe? They're not tied, but it existed. But when he does the little backing vocals, the oh, that's the the folk song Outer Space.
Do you think Adam Driver knows he is unintentionally funny way more than he will ever try to be funny?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because like I bet you when he came off the set of Marriage Story, especially like that scene everyone makes fun of all the time, like just for the memes, I bet you he was like, I bet he was like, I fucking killed it, dude. Like I'm crying, like my fist hurts. I legit punched that wall. Like we killed. This scene's going down in history.
And then that's gonna be a meme of like, yeah.
It's like we're just going to laugh at the fact that this man just hits a hotel wall and just cries. That's the whole joke.
I think I might be making this meme up in my head, but I'm pretty sure I saw one where it was like,
and no one told you life was gonna be this way.
and then it's him like, and then it cuts. It's a cut of him punching the wall, but it's like to the Friends theme song, like it's got 4 of them or something. That might be made up in my. I don't know what, but I'm pretty sure that was like one. I'm like, it's just so. It's just yeah, but he's pouring his heart out, and then it's just there's just something about that scene that's just so intense that it's kind of like, oh boy, I walked into this, and then the internet's gonna make memes on it.
Oh, I like to imagine he's a really good sport about it. You have to at least hope.
Yeah, I think I've seen interviews enough to see that he can be pretty self-deprecating sometimes. So yeah, I would imagine.
Now I know you probably don't have like the most kind of exposure. This is a question by Mika Smith, kind of about Nocturne, but I was curious if you kind of had to. If you were offered the choice, I'm kind of retooling the question. If you were offered Hikawa's Reason, would you have gone along with it yourself and gone with the World of Stillness, or how would that kind of personally align up with your own beliefs?
Was this the one on Twitter? Because I peeked at some of them on Twitter. Is this the like if you could pick which reason?
This, there might be some double dibs. This is from YouTube right now.
Okay.
Oh, it's from you. God, I didn't even know where these questions came from.
We're pulling them everywhere, man. Friendster questions are coming up. I got my Ashley Madison account, a couple questions on there. Mostly, why am I posting this on there? But
I don't even know what Ashley Madison is, but here they come.
Don't look it up. If you are in a relationship, that cannot be good for your relationship.
I am in a relationship, so I will not look it up. If I was sorry, I'm just free-filling my water.
No,
here.
No worries.
I'm in my bathroom, pouring out of a tap. If I was offered, no, I don't think so. I mean, I suppose I'm supposed to say yes because I am him. But no, I think it's honestly, I think in terms of who I am as a flawed human being, of the reasons that were presented, if I wasn't trying to pick a reason that was just like, I want everyone to be happy. And it was just a choice between like those three. I think I'd be most tempted to go with Isamu's like isolationist kind of thing, which I think I have a fault of I like to do things often on my own as much as I can, and I think I try to be more independent than I actually sometimes should be. And I think I would, if I was like in his situation, I'd probably be kind of sympathetic to that. Like, look, I do my thing, you do your thing, and that's that. But I also know, because that's a flaw of mine, I know that doesn't actually, I'm not super convinced that works on a grand scale always. But I think in my own kind of just like self-absorbed world, I'd maybe more tempted to go down that route than Hikawa's. Because Hikawa's thing, I think the thing is like, yeah, on paper I get it, but also it's like you kind of don't. I feel like you just kind of lose your individuality. Like you just kind of lose who you are. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That maybe Hikawa. Yeah, I mean that's the point. Everything works, but then it's kind of like, was it all worth it? I don't know.
That's what I really like. That's what I really like about all the reasons is, even if you're like vehemently against one, you can still kind of see why someone would pick it. And that's actually one of my complaints with a lot of the characters. Hikawa doesn't suffer from this just because he's definitely just kind of immediately set up as an antagonist, but you get this kind of more with your friends of like, I don't know why you would want this. Like, you're supposed to be just like a random high schooler, so I don't know why you're now apparently a nihilistic megalomaniac or whatever. But hey, I guess.
Hey, have you met high schoolers?
Yeah, that
high schoolers of a certain crowd.
Yeah, that's true, man.
I feel like that was me at a point.
Kids these days.
Everyone's so selfish and the world, like. I've definitely been there. Not quite as nihilistic as they appear to be, but I also didn't go through an apocalypse, so.
Yeah, man. Easier question, I assume. This is from Matthew Patterson, who says, would you ever want to cosplay as Hikawa?
Sure. Would I have to shave little corners of my hairline? I don't,
That seems like an easy wig. Like, I feel like that's probably an easy wig.
Yeah. Yeah. No, why not? Put on a suit. I feel like Hikawa's probably a bit taller. He seems like super tall from the. It's hard to. He
sits down a lot. I'm gonna say I bet you he's a secret shorty. I bet you he's like 5'10" and really embarrassed about it.
I'm sitting in my armchair right now. Yeah. I mean, I'm like 5'9", so it's like whatever. But yeah. Why not? If the opportunity presents itself, and I'm not like self-aggrandizing and. It's like, hey, it's funny because I am him in some public place, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, I'd be open to it.
Would you say this is like the closest to like, in terms of like a main named role you've had of like something that would kind of like you could see someone now that you've been in this role getting an email, or your agent one day getting an email being like, hey, we need you to fly out to this like medium-sized convention to like sign autographs? Or do you think like that's like would this be like the first kind of like thing like that? Because I was like thinking, looking at your stuff of like now that it's kind of a specific, there is a legitimate real possibility that within the future now, especially that it's out, someone's going to just come up to you at a certain point in your life with a copy of this mustard yellow case for Nocturne HD and just say, "Can you sign this?" And say, "I hope it's not with a gold Sharpie, but sure thing."
The gold Sharpie. Yeah, I would say probably. You know, yeah, because you know, he's a fairly major character. Yeah, probably. I mean, time will tell.
Is that a? I guess it's more of a thing of like, is that a weird feeling? Like, I can't imagine of just like, oh, I've done roles, but like, you don't hear of like, oh, the Fallout people, or even like not even like stuff like World of Warcraft. Like, you don't even see people being like, oh, like I need to get like these characters like to be flown out to a convention, where it's like, I feel like for whatever reason, anime conventions are like, are you even remotely related to Japan? We'll fly you out. Doesn't matter. Get on a plane.
No, that's a big part of that industry, and for being a voice actor. I mean, I know a lot of people were. You know, it's a portion of the income is going to conventions. And yeah, I mean, if anyone's listening, I'd be happy to come. But yeah, this would probably be it, because I think you are right. I think a lot of times it is tied to anime or JRPG, just because the fan bases that they're often just very invested, and it's cool how much of a culture has been built off of that, and how many conventions. Yeah, like there's stuff in like, I don't know, Indiana. I'm sure there's something in Overland Park, or there's something in, you know, everywhere.
I know people. I'll make some calls. We'll get you out here. Don't worry.
I'd love to come to Overland Park. It's one of my favorite municipalities.
I will find someone to pay you a appropriate, I assume, price for a plane fare to get out here for 3 days.
Wonderful. Have some KC barbecue. Sign with gold Sharpies.
Yeah, only gold Sharpies now. So, next question. This one, last couple have come from Twitter. This one, it comes from Daxon, who says, first off, congrats on getting the role, and this might be a tough one. Do you think Hikawa would be the type of guy that would like Rick and Morty and brag about having a high intelligence?
Well, you have to have a high intelligence to watch Rick and Morty, as we all know. I don't know if he'd watch much. So that's the thing. It's like, understand. I think he would definitely brag about his intelligence, but I almost kind of wonder if like if his IQ would come up. Like he kind of manipulates Yuko, right? I almost feel like he'd be the kind of person who'd kind of manipulate people to bring up IQs, and then he'd casually maybe reference his IQ, maybe do it that way. I think he would try to get it in there if he could. I mean, I think that was the thing. Like, when I looked at his art, I'm like, okay, this is the look of a man who thinks he's smarter than everyone. And his actions would dictate that is part of his paradigm, shall we say. So, yeah, I think that's certainly true.
I got to ask this very, very question, and unfortunately, the first thing that just came into my mind, imagining it all, the only thing I could pretty much picture in my head was just the Pickle Rick scene, but except it's Hikawa has turned himself into a pickle and is telling Yuko, and it's just very, very dry. He doesn't think it's funny, but he would do it just to see if he could. He's like Yuko, I need you to come in here. I've turned myself into a pickle, and I've achieved ultimate stillness now. We have no arms or legs. What can I even do?
I've achieved ultimate brinery. Something like that. Yeah, I don't know.
And then she just walks away, being like, "I should have known long ago that this was a Rick and Morty fan."
Yeah, this guy's bad news. Yeah. Oh god, another Rick and Morty fan. I fell into for the record, I enjoy Rick and Morty, but what was it? The Rick and Morty fans that was it? They like destroyed him. I'm probably just talking out of my ass now. They rampaged to McDonald's because they're out of Szechuan sauce.
Oh man, God. That was 4 years ago. That's how little time has meaning anymore. That was 4 years ago.
Oh, that's horrifying to hear. Oh, no. Yeah, well, that was like one of the things I'm like, guys, it's a funny show. You know, it's great, but those poor workers, let's not do that. Come on. Yeah,
And now McDonald's workers are going through a different crisis of just having BTS fans come there every day asking, are you sure? Are you sure you don't have photo cards? Like, are you absolutely sure you don't have photo cards?
Oh, is that the thing now?
Well, like, cause like, so they're doing like
Is that the new like sponsorship tie-in?
Well, like, like last year they had a couple different like artists have like, here's the like Travis Scott burger, here's the I don't know what the other like they're just doing that. They have a BTS meal, and it's just to like put this into perspective of like what fans are thinking. My wife, who loves BTS, unironically is looking into how she can get a McDonald's shirt because all the employees got a shirt for this like promotional event. She's like, I need this shirt.
He's got to get a job at McDonald's.
I told her, I'm like, listen, you could probably just get a job. You'd get it. It's like, no. Like, no, I don't want it that bad, but I do need it.
Yeah, well, yeah, just show up for your first day. You're like, look, it's not working out, but get the shirt.
Listen, I know jobs are having a hard time keeping people, especially McDonald's. Just put out there, stop offering more money, stop offering health care, stop offering iPads or iPhones. Just say free BTS shirt. You can't beat these people away with that offer.
You'll be overemployed.
I mean, the second day after they have the shirt, they'll never show up, but you will have a lot of employees.
Yeah, you will have one day where it's operating like a well-oiled machine.
I just imagine like they all have the same day and same first shift, so it's like 50 people inside of McDonald's just with their shirt, and no one is trained to do anything.
They just kind of stand there. They're comparing their favorite, BTS. They're doing some kind of busy work. They're kind of like idly scrubbing like the side of a wall, kind of just the same spot over and over, but talking about their favorite BTS member. I can't remember their names at the top of my head, but
just say Jimin all the time. It's always Jimin. Everyone loves Jimin. Why not? I will say this. Think about it though. Like, if you are a fan of BTS and your job was McDonald's, like what a great actual piece of news. You're saying like that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great like season. That's wonderful.
It's gonna be 1 month, and then you're gonna wonder why I'm still here. And you're like, oh god, all right, I got this. And then
it's something that you don't give a shit about, and you're just like, yeah.
The Billy Ray Cyrus meal next month. Oh my god, all right.
Watch it. That's the hot new thing all the kids are talking about. The Billy Ray Cyrus meal.
They blew the McDonald's promotional team. They kind of blew their load with BTS. They didn't really have as much left to really go with for the rest of the month. They didn't even it out.
We got the Rob Schneider meal coming next, and
I
don't know.
What would the Rob Schneider meal even consist of?
A DVD of like, was he in Grown Ups?
I'm sure, yeah. You just get, it's just like it's like a forced Happy Meal item. It's like you get one and they're like, hey, do you have a copy of Grown Ups? Oh no, thank you. No, you do now.
They hand it to you. It's got tape on the back. It's yours now.
See, in my head though, I was imagining it was basically it's a filet of fish, except the fish is just a deep fried copy of Grown Ups. Oh man!
You peel away the breading and you see like Kevin James on the water slide or something.
There's just mayo all over the place, and you're just like, "Is this a used Redbox copy?" I was like, "Listen, I'm giving you a free movie. It doesn't matter where it's from."
You see, there's a Redbox in the front of the store. Like, oh, okay.
That makes sense. They only had Kevin Smith and Kevin James and Rob Schneider movies. I gotta say though, I am not doing myself any favors. Rob Schneider probably not gonna come on the show after this conversation.
Probably not. I'm sorry I shot your chances there.
I would love for someone to be like, they'll write in the next week, be like, sir, I love Rob Schneider and I cannot stand for this heresy.
Hey, I remember watching The Benchwarmers as a kid. Watched it a couple times, Yeah. It's funny. I know the kid who played the catcher in that. Of course, he's like our age now. He was a kid when we were kids. Go figure. But he played the catcher that like David Spade calls fat in it.
That'd be a story. That'd be like a forever story. I could always tell that story no matter what's going on.
His name is Mason. He's a great guy. He was in not Green Book, Green Room, which was shot up in Portland. He played Patrick Stewart.
I was gonna say, yeah, I can't think of anyone in that movie unless you're getting murdered or Patrick Stewart, who's not a skinhead.
No, he was one of the skinheads.
Great movie though. If anyone has not ever seen Green Room,
I still gotta see it.
It's weird. I wouldn't call it a horror movie. It is just very suspenseful. It's really good.
The thriller.
Yeah.
Well, also horror snobs. Every time you're like, "Oh, that was a great horror," we're like, "Well, it's more of a thriller." And you're like, "All right, well."
We've really dissected a lot of film here on this video game podcast. I appreciate you coming on, sir.
Hey, I'm a tangential man.
So our last question, I don't want to say it's our hardest, but it might be our most important. Our last question comes from Me Costume Guy. That's M-I-I.
Me Costume Guy. Wow.
What
Hello, Me.
is Hikawa's first name? Now, obviously, he doesn't have a canon first name. We only know him as Hikawa. Yeah. So I'm gonna give you the reins right now. I called before the show happened. I called up 1-800 Mr. Atlas in Japan, not the American one. He doesn't pick up my calls. He's fantastic. He's really worried about those Olympics though. He does not think they're happening this year. He's got a lot of money riding on 2021. But yeah, Mr. Atlas Japan said you have free reign. He called up the Japanese voice actor. He was getting the BTS meal, so he did not want to pick the name of Hikawa himself. So you are now in charge of it. No pressure. You can pick whatever you want. Is Hikawa his first name and then he has a new last name, or do you want to give him a new first name and his last name is Hikawa?
No, folks, listen here. Hikawa's first name, Jim. It's Jim. Jim.
I hate it because I can see it. I can look at his face. Yeah. That's a Jim. Yeah.
Only my wife calls me James.
Oh my God. I now hate myself because I'm now just thinking of that picture of Jim from The Office with that shit-eating grin, and it's just Hikawa.
Yeah,
it's just Hikawa looking at the camera, just like that. It's that Jim face.
Yeah, can we do that? Someone's good at Photoshop.
You know what? I didn't get that degree in graphic design to not be a graphic designer for nothing. So there's my challenge for this. If
someone is good at Photoshop, at me, and I will love you forever.
Oh no! You've just willed it into existence now. I have to do the episode art for every episode. That is the challenge now. We will be making Jim. We will be making Jim Hikawa now canon.
What have I done? I'm sorry, Atlas.
I also bonus points if anyone can go to the wiki and change that. I know it'll get changed back, but if someone can at least go change it, and then the source is. It's Connor.
That's all Spencer. I'm not telling you to do that. That's all Spencer.
Oh my gosh. Well, Connor, thank you so much for coming on. That was just about it. That was just about it for questions. As you can tell, I hope you understand what I mean when I warned you. I'm just like, we get very fast and loose very quickly for absolutely no reason.
No, that's a good reason. I'm glad we talked about the prospects of a mass hiring regarding BTS. We talked about Adam drivers, memes, and we talked about the size of Overland Park compared to other Kansas cities as a part of the Kansas City metropolitan area, of course. Yeah, these are all things that are very germane to Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne HD Remastered. I'm glad we covered that.
Yeah, you get royalties for every time you say it, and a copy gets sold. So we gotta pump that for sure. There's the
yeah, and the title gets kind of unraveled like for each segment.
When you go to Walmart to buy your copy, just tell the cashier Connor sent me, but you have to wink with your left eye twice, and then he gets the promo code discount.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you go to Walmart, that will definitely happen.
You know what? I was really sad. Like, all jokes aside, Walmart and Target are not selling this game in stores. And I'm like...
Oh, really?
I mean, I get it. Like, listen, it's not like... This is... I'm sorry that if I'm the first person who might tell you, this is kind of a niche product. I don't know if you were the first person to hear this, but...
Right. No, it's definitely like, it's a hallmark for RPG fans and stuff like that. But yeah, I know it's not like... I mean, I learned about it when I was when I got the part, or auditioned, I guess. But yeah, of course, Atlas, all those games are world famous and rightfully acclaimed. But yeah, well, that was the crazy thing, right? Because Persona is a spin-off of SMT, and Persona's quite famous now. It's bopping. But I hope that SMT kind of comes back to the forefront, because it's kind of that fun, dark twin to it in a lot of ways.
It's tougher to sell, for sure. Like, there's never a moment, whether you're a fan or a newcomer, no one's sitting there bashing their head against the wall going, God, guys, what is it about this dark, melancholy world that we just can't sell as well as this bright, vibrant, red, colorful, jazzy soundtrack? All my years in selling stuff degrees, just none of it's making sense. So, like, I get it, and I think it's there's different factors that kind of get into it without, like, getting too much on a diatribe about it. But, like, I think that there was a chance for this to kind of be that, but there were, like, just different factors that kind of, like, led it to this HD release is definitely for the fans, at least at launch. I don't think someone's going to be walking in, again, seeing that absolutely mustardy ass yellow cover face and go, number 3, I'm in for me. But I think, as I kind of talked about,
I genuinely, I'm looking at it. I'm pulling it out right now. I love the design.
I can't tell you how much I know people I know the people at Atlas who had to design that cover, and I reached out to them and I went, I know you can't because it's the same cover they used in Japan, but I said, would you change it? Obviously off the record, would you change it? And they were like, I can neither confirm nor deny, but I definitely have no say in the matter. But it's one of those things of, like, for me, because it's just a different take, and obviously they're going for the gold theme of, like, it's the ultimate release. It's so we're having a gold sheen, but just printed on cover paper, it just gives me Grey Poupon mustard vibes every time I look at it.
Oh, I never thought of that. I think it should have Hikawa, but, like, kind of, like, angled, so you get his nice, beautiful hairline and a little bit of that steely gaze. Because I know you play as Demi-Fiend, but he's the true hero.
With the power of naming your character Jim Hikawa, you can turn Demi-Fiend into Jim Hikawa.
Oh my god, I can. Oh, can I ask you, what ending did you pick?
So, True Demon ending is kind of just the one that everyone goes with because it is.
I know.
It is the longest.
All my friends who are fans are like, True Demon, baby. I'm like, you gonna join me? They're like, no, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah,
like,
so
right.
I wanted to kind of do something a little bit different in the sense of I'd never really gone out of my way to get the other ending, so I wanted to just play as neutral as possible. So I basically was a yes man for everyone. So every time someone was like, are you gonna help me summon this demon? Sure thing. Sure thing. And I did it to everyone, which then just basically makes the final part of the game just being like, hey, are you on my side? Nope, I gotta kill you. Nope, I gotta kill you. Nope, I gotta kill you. And then that's the end. So the ending... ending,
like the boss fight, they're like, you're with me, against me.
Yeah,
like, well,
so it was just kind of funny of, like... I liked that aspect of, like... And I thought the ending was actually very, very good of... I just thought it was so funny of, I'd never thought of playing the game like that, because when you're going in, especially like if you're trying to get one specific ending, it's kind of less fun, whereas I just was very loosey-goosey. I was like, whatever ending I get, I'm going to get it. So I thought it was a lot more fun kind of like taking that stress of it off of it for me, because like, I like True Demon ending in terms of the journey it takes to get there, but the ending itself is just kind of whatever, whereas like, I had a lot more fun kind of messing around with it, and I'm going to continue and try and get the other endings and stuff like that for it, but I enjoyed going in being very, like, lackadaisical of, like, I have no plan, I am just a loose cannon cop, and I'm going to punch everyone in the face.
Yeah, that is fun, because I often play games where, well, it depends on the game, but, like, there's some games where it's like, I will do what, if I felt like I was my best self, what I would do in the situation, or I'd like to think I'd do. But there's sometimes I'm like, let's just kind of like, I don't know, I'm kind of feeling this today. Like when I was playing The Witcher 3, which I think is a great game in terms of like, when you pick what Geralt says, no matter what, it still feels like you're the same guy. Like it's not like some games where it's like you say one line and it sounds like if you're like the hard ass and the next line you're super sweet. It doesn't sound like dramatically different. Like it seems like it's the same guy, which gave me some freedom to kind of go, oh, maybe Geralt's in a good mood today and he'd help this person out. The other day he just wants to go, fuck you. So it's sometimes really fun when you can kind of just play the field that way. I don't really fully know what I'm going to do playing through it. I'm probably just going to suck. I got roasted online on like Instagram or I don't know if he knew. Did he know who I was? But like it was like, oh, what difficulty are you going to do? I just commented like, I'll probably have to do merciful. And someone's like, not unless you're like under 10.
Hey, 10-year-olds, buy this 20-year-old M-rated video game, and then please don't play it on baby mode.
I know, everyone's like, you fucking baby. I'm like, I just
Man,
voices.
Instagram's being mean to you.
Oh, well, it was just like, I think it's just one person. I don't know if, they made the connection, which either way, like, don't treat me as I'm any better. But like, oh, I remember it's funny when the cast was announced. I got someone on Twitter. I guess based on my profile picture, because my hair is pretty shaggy, presumably this is why. Some guy, everyone's like, oh, cool, or oh, that's not who I thought, or whatever. It was all generally quite pleasant. Everyone's cool. One guy just wrote, like, when I just announced who I was, he just wrote, "You look like a guy who smokes weed outside a Whataburger at 3 p.m."
That looks like a guy who I could see eating a bacon egg cheese sandwich at Whataburger at 2 a.m.
Up a joint, in like what, Fort Worth, just digging into a bacon cheeseburger. I was just like, and I looked at my profile picture, I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see it. Not deep, but just like looking at like how I look in the picture, I'm like, yeah, I'd cast me as that.
I have to say though, there were many people I saw across the like Facebook, Discord, and all the other places I'd asked questions about for you. I kept seeing many times people saying that you were their favorite character and how like excited they were to have you on, just in terms of like they may not have heard of you before, but like they really like I and even now like I keep hearing from people like, oh yeah, like he is my favorite character in the bunch. Like I hear that a lot for your character as well as Hijiri. I get a like, and also like those are like my two big standouts. Awesome.
Chris is, yeah, I've been playing. He's killing it. Yeah, that's so nice of them though. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I was definitely intimidated when I learned what the role was and how it's got a big following. That's so nice of you to pass that along. Thank you. Yeah, I loved playing the part, and I love those kind of characters. The kind of, they've got the man with the plan who's a little smug, and thanks. I'm glad to hear people are enjoying it. That's all you can hope for, really.
Yeah, I guess in terms of kind of like wrapping up though, where can people find you and hopefully not harass you on Instagram if you would like them to follow you on?
Tell me, like, oh, you look like yeah. Do what you will. Maybe don't make me cry. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at, this is gonna sound really outlandish for a voice actor, at Connor Fogarty VO. Which I know is such a strange thing to tag onto the end of your name, VO, when you're in voiceover. Who's ever done that? But yeah, that's spelled CONNORFOGARTY VO. And yeah, that's Twitter, Instagram. I have like a Facebook actor page, but like I really don't think I've really updated that well at all. It's got some like old headshot, and I'm on TikTok. It's Connor Fogarty VO2, but I barely use it, and you probably unfollow me as quickly as you follow me.
Can we get you like the I'm a voice actor and I can only do one kind of TikTok video, but with just the most like non-sequential alignment of your characters of like, hey everybody, I'm Connor, and you may know me from every role I've been in. It just like shows them all, be like, what's the trend here? The trend is I've got a job. All right, goodbye everybody.
Cults, yeah, money. Yeah, it's weird. There's been some cults involved. Yeah, maybe something like that. It's right now. It's like, I mean, it's just the stupidest shit on my TikTok. It's just like me with some filters explaining why I'm not on TikTok, and it's me trying to do some crapshoot ripoff of like Tim and Eric. It's I've talked about it more than it's worth talking about. But yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram. That's mainly where I am. Yeah. Come say hello.
As a massive fan still to this day of Tim and Eric, all things Tim and Eric and stuff like that, that makes me very, very much more excited to go check it out now. I hope you know.
Buddy. Oh, don't get excited.
I'm just expecting like your DJ Doug Pound's second editor-in-chief son. That's the quality I'm expecting.
Do you listen to Office Hours at all?
It's a mandatory yes. Am I a fan? Yes, of course I listen to Office Hours. Let me tell you, I had for the first time ever, I had a friend of mine invited me over to his place. We did a watch party for the Oscar special this year, and I've normally just watched those alone in my sad life. So watching that with people who are in on the joke is such a It's an experience.
Oh, it's like you find another person. Sometimes, it's so cathartic. It's like, wow, I haven't gone crazy. But at the same time, I've also loved, because I will watch these weird, very surrealist kind of YouTube videos. It sounds like maybe you might too sometimes. But I will like show them to friends. I remember in college, I'd be like, you gotta watch this video. Like, oh god, it's another one of his. I do this in high school too. Like, oh god, another one of Connor's weird YouTube videos. And I'd be like laughing, pointing like cross-eyed from laughing. And then the video would end. They'd be like, well, it was pretty funny watching like you laugh. Like I enjoyed watching you have fun.
I can confirm I am that guy who has on multiple occasions cried at thinking about telling my joke to people.
Yeah.
Where like I break myself up before I've even said it, and then everyone's just like, "You've just ruined it." I know, but like I have no control. I find everything way too funny.
Anytime you rehearse it, anytime I rehearse something like that, or anytime you think of a cool thing to say, I'm gonna stumble in my speech. It's just how it goes. So yeah, that's the hard part of it. But yeah, no, I've definitely had those moments, especially when I was younger. I'd just be like cracking up to myself. I was an altar boy, like I mentioned, and now I'm in a game where like you get powers from Lucifer, so Lord have mercy. But sorry, I'm just going on tangents.
No, I get. Hey man, it's like George Lucas said in that quote. I'm sure he definitely does not regret saying it's like poetry. It rhymes.
It's like poetry. It sort of rhymes. Baby Yoda was not originally in my original vision. George Lucas. Sorry. No, I remember being an altar boy. It was like, because I work funerals. I do funerals, and it was like this one funeral. I remember I was just like, I just started thinking of some funny thing. My like friend, it was the friend I shouted out earlier, because we grew up next door to each other. It's something he said as a kid, like on a home video. That was super funny. And I was just thinking of that, and I'm like in church working a funeral. It's like I can't be but it's that thing where it's just in your head, and I guess they call those church laughs. But
it's like you know you shouldn't, and it just makes you want to do it even more.
It just makes you. It's that suddenly you maybe wouldn't have even laughed about it before, but now you're like, now you can, and then you're stuck. Yeah, I miss those. I miss laughter.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna miss doing this podcast, and we're still doing it, which I am so glad to have had you on this for. Thank you so much. If you don't mind, I'm gonna do my horrifyingly long spiel, and then we can say our goodbyes.
That's totally fine. Do your horrifyingly long spiel, and if the for SMT8, if you need me back, because of course I'm in that. Happy to come back.
You'll be the reanimated shambling corpse of Jim Hikawa.
Yep, Jim Hikawa's back. Jim Jr. too. Watch out.
Oh man, I'm gonna just do such a terrible job on this episode's picture for this. Apologies in advance for everyone who has had to look at it for the last like 2 hours. So yes, if you would like more of whatever this was, you can find us on Twitter at SMT Network. My personal Twitter is at Torchwood4SP. You can join our Facebook group by going to facebook.com/group/SMT Network. And shoutouts to the Facebook group. You guys have been really, really active, and there's been a ton of new members. I guess unsurprisingly with the game coming out, but I always find it so funny of like, and you probably get this a lot. I'm assuming like with your saying, I have a lot of friends, and I hear a lot online of people just be like, "Oh man, I hate Facebook. Like my Facebook feed is totally trash.
Yeah.
It's just stuff like that." Whereas like literally my Facebook exists. Okay, half of it is because of Messenger, and so I can talk to my wife and family. The other half of it is for my Facebook group that I've been running with this thing since like almost like a decade now, and it's been so funny of like watching it grow, and we have something almost like 8.2 thousand people there, and it's just so funny like watching these people who've maybe been in there for like a month, a week, or like 7 years, and it's just a really, really welcoming place if you want to just come talk to people. If you do use Facebook, if not, I understand there are tons of other places. That's why there's like Discord.
Oh, I do have a Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like it's one of those funny things of like I feel like I have like way too many dad stories that I could like tell about it, of like I have made so many legitimate friends just through not like making this community, but just like through like just that act of like making the Facebook group. Like through that Facebook group I have met friends who are now getting married because they met through that group. Like stuff like that, like which is just like, man, that's
my god,
like that's such like a fun weird story of like we've had that moment of like, hey, when we're having our wedding, like people from like, it's gonna be all these strangers from the internet being like, how do you all know each other? It's gonna be this weird dude in Kansas made a Facebook group.
Like, that's amazing though. Congrats to those people. That's some dude from Kansas, Overland Park, Kansas. Okay, I mean,
we gotta give respect and dox me as accurately as possible. But also, I have never.
Sorry, I doxed you.
You know, it's like the funniest thing. Like I was talking about this recently. On like when I would do online dating profiles, there'd be like on OkCupid, there'd be that thing of like, say something interesting about yourself, and mine was just unironically, please don't Google me. Just don't Google my name. There's nothing that you will find on there that will make you be like, I want to check out this guy.
Ooh, I hear you're a bit of a demi-fiend.
Yeah, man, nothing gets the moisture temperatures rising quite like your weekly Shin Megami Tensei podcast needs.
Maybe. You know, I don't know.
But yeah, so if that is something you need in your life or in your loins, hey, I'm not going to judge. You can also find the show on YouTube just by searching Shin Megami Tensei Network, or by finding my channel just under my name, Spencer Presley, because if we're going to dox me, we're going to fully dox me. My social security will be in the outtakes. But yeah, you can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all those fun places and stuff like that. But that is my very long spiel. Thank you so much for listening through it. Connor, thank you so much for suffering through this with me. I appreciated every second of this.
No suffering at all. No suffering at all, Spencer. Happy to do it. This was a blast, man.
Yeah, and here is where we will say goodbye, and then once the show is done, edited, and all that other fun stuff, then people can just assume we talked about all the embargoed stuff they couldn't... All the juicy questions no one could hear about.
Yes.
So then we say goodbye awkwardly. So goodbye, everybody, awkwardly.
Bye.